Okay, in this video we'll be talking about how to represent missing data in R. Okay, so generally in R vectors, right, sometimes it may happen that some of the elements of the vector may not be known beforehand. Okay, so that means we need to assign some kind of initial value which is not known, and in the latter part of the program maybe we will be assigning a proper value to that particular element. Okay, in that type of scenario we can represent that initial unknown value of a particular element of a vector using a special value called NA. Okay, so if I just show you the initial diagram we created, right, I'm talking about this missing data in R. Okay, and the missing data can be represented by NA, capital NA. So if I just create a vector something like this using C, okay, so let's say first three elements are 1 to 3, then I can create a value called NA. So that means if I just see X, so it will be a vector of 4 elements. First 3 elements will be 1, 2 and 3, and the fourth element will be NA, and latter part we can change this NA to something else, right? We can update this particular vector. Now one thing we need to remember over here is any operation we do with NA, it will always results to NA only. Okay, so if I just give 2 asterisk X, that means I am trying to multiply each and every element of X by 2. Okay, let's see what is happening over here. If you see it here, the rest of the elements are multiplied by 2, but NA again multiplied by 2 is coming as NA only. Okay, so you have to remember that. Now there is a function by which you can know whether a particular element of a vector is NA or not. That function is dot NA. Okay, and if you just give any vector over here, so if you give for each and every element, it will determine whether the value is NA or not. And if you see it for X, the first 3 element it's returning false, the fourth element it is returning true. Okay, now apart from NA, there is another data type called NaN, not a number. Okay, and that is also represented as NA in R. Now NaN can be generated by some kind of mathematical operation which is not allowed, something like 0 over 0. So if I just create a vector Y, okay, whose elements are 0 over 0, okay, which is not defined in mathematics, right? Again, infinite. This is the way we represent infinite in R. Okay, capital INF minus infinite. Okay, this to always generate a value called NaN, and I'll also include NA as well for comparison purpose. Okay, unexpected comma, let me see. Okay, I have not given C over here. Okay, so now if I just see Y here, if you see the first 2 elements are NaN and NaN, the third element as we has already discussed NA, right? Now there is another function called is dot NaN, okay, which will basically tell whether it's not a number or not. If I just give Y over here, if you see the first 2 elements, it is giving me true, and the third element it is giving me false. Now let us see what if I give is dot NA to Y. Okay, and if you see here, it is always returning true for NaN as well. That means NA is the super program over here compared to NaN. So that means whatever value is NaN, that can be represented as NA as well. So you have to remember that one. Okay, now there are certain R functions. So now whenever a R function encounters the value NA, it depends on that function. Either it's a inbuilt R function, or if you are writing a function, user defined function, you have to basically handle NA. Okay, suppose I will give you an example over here. Suppose let's talk about the vector X itself. Okay, we have 4 elements over here. Now there is a function called min, right? Now if I just give mean over x, what do you mean by mean here in statistics? It's basically taking the average, right? So if you see, the value is NA, the output is NA, because it is trying to add up all these elements and divided by 4, right? As I said, any operation we do with NA results with NA, so that's why ultimate result is NA. Now mean also has another input, okay? If I just give x, and second input is NA dot remove equals to true. If I just give, okay, what will happen? If you see it over here, now it is ignoring NA over here, right? So it is adding up 3 to 5 plus 1 6, okay, and then divided by 3. That's why it is giving me 2, right? So if you see it over here, this inbuilt R functions also built in such a way that you can have an option to remove NA as well. And when we will be creating our own functions, we have to keep in mind this one as well. So if a vector element is NA, we have to handle accordingly, okay, while developing that function. So hopefully that is intuitive enough, okay? So this is a very brief discussion about missing data in R. In the next video, we'll be talking about how we can handle different sub vectors, okay? Basically we'll be selecting some of those elements from the vector, how to differently select different elements or sub vectors from a particular vector, okay? See you in next video.